Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. When the idiot-in-chief got up at the end of the SNP conference, stood there, panicked and said, "OK, council tax freeze," because he had nothing else to say, he had, of course, by this point, not actually costed it. He didn't know what the plans were from the council because it was literally 5 minutes before he stood up, back of an envelope stuff. Hadn't told anybody, and they all immediately panicked. Well, one of the upshots is, and this has just been released and leaked effectively, is that councils up and down the whole of Scotland were planning in some cases, quite significant increases. Now, if Humza Yousaf is to stick with his word and say, right, there'll be no council tax increase, he's got to meet the cost of these. And it's really quite significant. In some cases, up to 10% increase in council tax that he's got to find out of central government funds. And remember, central government are already £1 billion in the hole. Unless he's got one of them magic money trees that Nicola Sturgeon was so often seen planting, he's screwed. The only other thing, of course, is that he backtracks on it and says, oh, actually, no, we'll just have to put a little bit extra in. Yeah, it's going to be council tax rises. Because that's the only two options he's got. Which is it? Are you a fool who doesn't know what you're talking about? Or are you a fool and a liar who's going to backtrack because he doesn't know what he's talking about? It's not much of a choice, is it? Anyway, we'll have a quick look at this and see why everything is going so appallingly wrong for Humza Yousaf. Well, we know. Life's hard when you're stupid. Here goes. So, council tax bombshell for Scots as leak shows planned payment hikes. These were massive hikes. Town halls have been planning huge increases to plug council tax spending gaps, which must now be met by the Scottish government. Now, here's the thing. He's only talked about doing this for 1 year. So let's say, for example, your council tax is £1,000, just to get the numbers right. So it's £1,000 this year. And they were going to increase it by 10%. So that'd be £1,100. So it should be £1,100 next year. Well, the government, the SNP, are only going to meet it for 1 year. So after that, it's going to go from £1,000 up to £1,100. But of course, by next year, they'll be doing another, say, 10%, which will be then another £110. So your council tax in 2 years, you'd be going £1,000. Then all of a sudden, it'll jump from £1,000 to £1,210. That's a massive rise. That's a 20% increase like that. People ain't going to... It's going to go bonkers. But then this is what happens when morons are given authority. Morons are allowed to make policy on the fly. Morons are voted into office. This is what happens. And of course, people are going to see it. They're going to go, how much? Of course, for most people in Scotland, it isn't going to matter because they get it paid for anyway, because it's only the workers that obviously have to pay it. So the workers will go, how much? You know, all the others will go, yeah, don't care. But that's what it is. So your income tax will be going up, won't it? Anyway, local authority chiefs have been planning council tax rises of 10%, piling pressure on Humza Yousaf to say how his government will pay for the freeze that he really stupidly announced without thinking. Leaked papers show some authorities have been considering the inflation-busting rises to council tax just to maintain local services during the cost of living crisis. But with the SNP Green government promising to fund a national council tax freeze, the First Minister has been urged to explain how he will compensate local authorities for binning planned rises. Well, he hasn't got a clue. You're asking him really hard, difficult questions. How on earth is someone with the IQ of a banana supposed to answer any difficult questions? He can't do it. He doesn't know how much this is going to cost. He hasn't costed it. He hasn't even asked anyone to cost it. He wouldn't know what to ask them. Anyway, Lib Dem MSP Willie Rennie said the First Minister's council tax announcement was so off the cuff that even his own cabinet and coalition partners were taken by surprise. I know they tried spinning it a few days later, and they tried to say, oh, well, no, we discussed it earlier in cabinet, blah, blah, blah. A load of old crap. And we know it's crap because the civil service didn't know about it. And when you have these meetings in cabinet and things, they all get minuted, and the civil service do the minutes. And the civil service, they didn't know. Oh, no, we don't know about this. They obviously didn't know about it because it was never minuted, because it was never discussed in cabinet. I mean, they do try to pull the wool over your eyes. They think we're stupid. They think we're morons, but we're not stupid. They are. We know they are. Anyway, many councils were planning significant rises to raise revenue, and if a freeze is being imposed, councils will need to be compensated in full. Otherwise, the First Minister will be forcing them to axe vital services. And when it comes to tax, no one knows whether Humza Yousaf will raise it or cut it next. That's making it impossible for businesses, households and local authorities to plan their finances. Because the initial plan was, yes, we're going to raise council tax by 22.5%. Then he announced a freeze. Now he doesn't know whether he can afford the freeze. So he might go back but only raise it a little bit. The same with national insurance, not national insurance, same with income tax. Oh, no, we're not going to do anything. Oh, no, we're going to have to put it up. Promising no rise, now we're going to put it up. But then we're only going to put it up for some and not so other. Well, you know, it's a man who is literally making it up as he goes along, and a man who is completely out of his depth. He does not know what he's doing. I mean, I was once told this one, and I thought it was absolutely true. Now, whether you liked Margaret Thatcher or not, you at least knew that she knew where she was going. She at least had a direction. You might not have liked the direction she was going, but she at least had a direction. Humza Yousaf, he's just swimming around in circles, paddling like a duck, isn't he? Looking around, quack, quack, quacking, hoping somebody will throw in some fucking bread. The man is lost. He's completely over-promoted. He's a post-turtle. He's got to the top and he don't know why. Somebody's had to put him there because he hasn't gotten there himself, has he? Anyway, Yousaf angered town hall bosses when he announced plans for council tax freeze during the SNP conference. They're worried deep cuts to education, children's services and leisure centres will have to be made. I'll guarantee if this doesn't go through, leisure centres will be one of the first to go because they are expensive to run and they don't make a great deal of money. They are a vital service, don't get me wrong, but they're only a vital community service. They're not a life-threatening or a life-saving service. Cutting them doesn't change lives, whereas social care kind of does. So they look to the ones that will have the least impact on health. I'm afraid that tends to be things like community centres, leisure centres, things like that. Things that can be cut, that jobs can be gone. They can save a lot of money on heating, maintenance, upkeep, that sort of thing. So they will go. Undoubtedly, it's a way of saving a lot of money. Anyway, a leaked paper by the council umbrella group COSLA reveals the increases under consideration. It states COSLA officers worked swiftly to understand the picture across Scotland for planned increases and are aware that some councils have planned for rises as high as 10%. And a quick survey of directors of finance has shown that for 24-25, most are intending to put council tax up by between 5 and 8%, which is around 8% is around the inflation rate. 75% of returns so far are above 5%. Several councils were credibly planning rises of 9 to 10% and have been implementing saving plans based on this. Some councils have indicated that the size of the budget gap may even require them to consider rises far in excess of 10%. And of course now they will have to be funded by central government, which literally doesn't have the money. Because it's the SNP and they've spent it all on nice glossy brochures that we've covered today with all the immigration issues that people are going to go absolutely apeshit over. Oh dear. Calculations by the Fraser of Allender Institute think tank suggest that a freeze on council tax will require £470 million handout from the Scottish Government to councils. £500 million. They're already £1 billion in the hole. £500 million. And they announced another £300 million going into the NHS. So, I mean, you're looking another $1 billion, really, by the time you've added everything else on that they're trying to do. So you're going to end up with a £2 billion black hole from a country that's got 5.5 million people in it. Where do they think this money's coming from? Literally. I mean, and that isn't the budget. That's just the black hole in the budget. They've got to actually raise the money as well. This is just a joke, isn't it? These people haven't got a clue what they're doing. Well, anyway, civil servants, including the country's top official, John Paul Marks, only found out at the 11th hour about the notice. Basically, they found out at the same time we did, watching the bloody telly. You know, it's just a joke. This man is dangerous. Labour MSP Mark Griffin said the freeze will be a relief to thousands of Scots struggling with the cost of living. It won't, because they may not be paying it in council tax, but all the other stuff's going to have to go up. And if they're sitting there and they enjoy using a leisure centre or need a bit of extra childcare or granny needs Meals on Wheels, all these things are being cut. So, you're making a bland statement saying people will be feeling better for it. No, they bloody well won't. The SNP cannot do policy stunts on the cheap and expect communities to pay for it. No, they can't. But no, they do expect it, but it's not going to happen. It just can't. Basically, it can't. He's opened his mouth. He's done something, and it's, his mouth has written a cheque, but his arse can't cash it, and that's the problem. And I think it's going to have to be abandoned. I really think it will have to be abandoned. I don't think you can do it, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, I shall finish there, round off, and come up, and we'll finish the video. So what do we think? Will he try and push through with it, push forward with it? Sort of, make sure it goes through and then just sit there with this massive, massive budget deficit that will destroy everything else they want to try and do? Or will he admit defeat and reverse his stance and say, sorry, I got it wrong? Well, it's the SNP. It's Humza Yousaf. He can never be wrong. So something is going to give. I wonder where he'll cut. I bet that 300 million to the NHS that he announced is already gone. He can't afford that. Never mind the 417 million to the councils. Talk's a good game. Can't deliver. Anyway, we'll end that there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope that he doesn't annoy you too much. You've got to get on with your life, really. You can't let it get you down, can you? Till next time, stay safe, stay well. And remember, soon he will go. And if we can whip them out and you get a bit of tactical voting, people, tactical voting at the next general election, make sure they have no seats whatsoever. And they're bankrupt and they're gone and they have to stop being a party. That will ease and save Scotland. Here endeth the lesson. Bye.